All right. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As Collison rightfully said, my name is Solomon Muingi, and I'm a correspondent for Radio Africa Group, particularly the Star newspaper. And I'll be talking to you shortly on strengthening media reporting in weather and climate. And more specifically, I'll be sharing experience on what we've been doing, especially where I'm located, which is Taita Taveta County here in Kenya, coastal region of Kenya. And that is specifically what I'll be talking to you about, and giving you case studies of what we've been doing and lessons learned on how we can strengthen our media reporting. Next, please, Collison. Yes, given the growing threat of climate change, we must understand that there is a serious need to educate the general public in the Eastern African region about this threatening issue, and media is perfectly positioned to do it. And yet, in many countries in the region, the coverage about weather and climate is such minimal, and thereby that poses the need to make sure that we increase more stories in terms of weather and climate. In essence, East Africa can be summed up as least responsible and most affected, yet least informed. Consequently, the region's citizens are among the least informed about human-induced climate change, and this causes and its causes, and this has brought so many consequences. That's a map of the East African region. All those countries, we are saying that there is need to enhance media reporting in terms of weather and climate to ensure that people living in those areas are in a position to understand what's happening, and they can respond perfectly. Next, please. Well, still on the IGAD region, most IGAD member states, for instance, have extensive climate change governance structures ranging from national policies, acts, and ministries to other government institutions, county governments, and private sector, together with civil society. And for that reason, we have to think about how to change the perception, because from the beginning, I've said that there is least information given out on weather and climate, especially from the media houses in the Eastern African region, and thereby there is need to make sure that we change this perception so that people can understand what is supposed to be done. Today, climate continues to be perceived as a threat and bad news. Media coverage on flooding, retreating glaciers, droughts, and failed crops present a bleak and depressing scenario. By changing how the media report on climate change, which is perceived to be bad news, could be given a positive spin. For example, addressing climate change could be seen as a chance to be prepared to grow in a sustainable way, to improve our crops, and to promote group collaborations and so on. And this is exactly what local journalists here in Taita Taveta County, coastal region of Kenya, are doing, and it has proved to be very successful in terms of changing the perception of audience, changing the perception of farmers, changing the perception of media practitioners, and so on. Next one, please. Now, moving forward to lessons that we've learned here in Taita Taveta while reporting on weather and climate. Journalists in Taita Taveta County in Kenya have, over the last 3 years, learned on that to strengthen media reporting in weather and climate, a number of factors ought to be taken into account at the media house level. And the lessons, next one, please. These are some of the lessons that journalists have learned and that we can share so that other media practitioners across the region can take into consideration. One, we've realized that we cannot have one solution to fit all the crises that are being posed by weather, climate change. We cannot promote silver bullets or one size fit all solutions. We need to have many solutions so that we can address this crisis. Look at what's working in your area. In our case, particularly based on the farmer field school experience. And farmer field school experience is whereby farmers are put into groups so that they can learn from each other. They can learn on good food production practices so as to address some of the challenges that have been brought by climate change. We can start with a local example of action and then tie that into a broader trend or an issue, whereby you visit a section group of farmers and see exactly what they are doing to address climate change. And then you can amplify that information so that other people in other regions can relate to that, and maybe they can copy such practices and make good use of them. Connect stories to people or places. Look at impacts on floods, health, gardening, travel, or things people care about and are familiar with them. Tell diverse stories. Climate change will affect different communities in a different way, and similar communities may learn from one another. And thereby, if we make these stories known to everybody, it will be very good so that people can adopt good ways. Now, to ensure that we strengthen this media reporting, there is need for support. And especially, this support should come from us, potential partners and stakeholders. One, we've identified that there is need for technical support through grants, equipment, and expert support. And such support is key in ensuring continuity and sustainability of programs in different media outlets, because there is also the financial implication to make sure that these stories are packaged and they are given out timely, and thereby there is need to have such a support. The support, especially in terms of equipment, will help improve user experience, because with the increasing audience, increasing audience, there is likely to consume news online or rather via smartphones, and therefore there is need to package this information digitally, thus pushing the urge for more sophisticated equipment that will enable media houses to give this information on time and to ensure that many people can access such information. More ideas on the same is about mentoring, as you can see that illustration there. When we have mentoring, mentorship programs, that's where people can get training, or media practitioners can get trainings, they can get motivation, they can advise each other, they can share success stories, and so on and so forth. Peer learning, mentorship, and benchmarking. Particularly in Taita Taveta, we did this with an effective WhatsApp group that brought climate experts on board. We have created a WhatsApp group that has brought together officials from the Kenya Meteorological Department, officials from the FAO, that is Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. We have officials from ICPAC, farmers and agricultural officials. And in this case, people are able to share information. Journalists are able to ask what they need to understand about climate change, and thereby they are in a position to build up stories from an informed perspective. The same WhatsApp group is used in sharing knowledge between journalists and producing policy recommendation to support and strengthen the media. Further, to strengthen media reporting, journalists should also be taken through mentorship programs on how to package and produce weather and climate stories. In enhancing collaboration between media players and other stakeholders, there is need for enhanced synergy between different players that would ensure timely packaging and release of weather and climate information. In this case, there is need to synergize the collaboration between different stakeholders that I mentioned there before, so that we can have end result that is having good stories packaged and released on time. Next one, please. Other ideas on training and seminars, I have talked about that, and this will enhance the ability of the media to prioritize weather and climate information, increase ability of media to provide more and better information to listeners, and being encouraged to be more innovative in telling weather and climate stories. Next, please. Again, this is much important one, and it's about involving the audience in weather and climate reporting. It is key because you are in a position to get feedback from the audience. You are in a position to know what people want to hear. You are in a position to understand what the problem is, and thereby you can develop stories that address such gaps. Allowing audience to participate and give feedback either through short messages, calling, social media platforms, etc., is key in measuring audience satisfaction and addressing the information gap and focusing on filling those gaps. This will help journalists answer the question of what can we help the public understand or do today. Audience participation can result in stories that journalists might not otherwise have produced because they are in a position to understand what is needed or where the gap is, and then they can develop such stories. So thank you so much for listening to me.